my questions. Okay, my questions, yes.
Another question, the Catholic, the Protestants, did they do child slavery at the same time? Were they working together? How did it?
Oh, okay, very good question. Those guys, in the history of maybe say Europe, they fought among each other. They fought serious wars. The Catholics and the Protestants. But maybe figure like Africa, they became one force. They implemented the same thing. They shared lama theologies la, but they were borrowing from each other. Giving each other land. So they were one force, even though they still had those differences, and sometimes they would even fight, even now like South Africa. But in general, they work together. Like, okay, we need to oppress these people. You see, because you find the very same system. We are in a nation that was run by Roman Catholics, and then you find the very same system in a nation that was run by Protestants. So they implemented the very same system. So they were all together. Even though in ideology, and they will fight even as a Europe, babulalan, like serious. One of the Protestant leader, Eric Zwingli, he was killed in a war between Protestant and Roman Catholics. So bonisuguchi babengazwan, but mabe fika like Africa, one thing, babe hlangana be into one. Yeah.
So can I ask you, Martin Luther was against, he was with these people and create something new out of his destruction.
Oh, yeah. So Martin Luther, okay, there's the Roman Catholic Church society, and then Martin Luther is the founder of Protestant, Puritans. They are after Martin Luther. So Martin Luther, he had irrespect for Abandabamnyam, the founder of a Protestant. He had irrespect of Abandabamnyam. How do you know that? Because Martin Luther rejected the church of Pumaguyu, and he all a fellowship with a church like Africa, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. He extended a hand of fellowship, but he rejected the church that was in his own homeland. So like at the beginning, he had no ill feelings, against Africans.
Because you are the one who started the civil rights movement against segregation.
Yeah. Oh, okay. There's Martin Luther, and then there's Martin Luther the King. Yeah. Martin Luther the King is in fact called after Martin Luther, the German monk. Yeah. So Martin Luther the King, yeah. Okay, yeah, and I have to explain that, because even the womb, like it used to be like that with Martin Luther. Yeah, no, but Martin Luther, in fact, is a very good example of what oppression. Yeah. So he was the guy of the civil rights movement, and guess what? He was killed by who? I'm a Protestant. Yeah, he was hated. Yeah, he's different. Martin Luther, he's in the 1517. That's close to what? 500 years before Martin Luther King, America, the black guy. He was named after yeah, and he lived up to Yonalond. But he was also killed by a Protestant. Yeah, he got his support. That's why you cannot fully categorize Abantu. He got the support from the Roman Catholic priests. But obvious, those who rebelled against their church, those who rebelled, there were very few, but they were there. They were supporting Umsebenzi wakhe, and he was killed by a Protestant. He himself was a Protestant, but killed by a Protestant, white Protestant. Yeah. So Yibo like Abamfaga because he was fighting against oppression, and they hated him. Batching as this guy like Ebepila in America. He was the most hated man, like among white Protestant. He was the most hated man. And that hate yabo yiyo le yalethi ukuthi abulawa, and he was killed for ukuthi alwe against oppression. And mawubheka umsebenzi wakhe ubheka ukuthi how ebekhuluma ngakhona lezi zinto, ebekhuluma from a perspective ya the prophets in the Old Testament. Yabo, yeah, from yabona mawucheck especially Isaiah and the minor prophets. Ama minor prophets yilaba Amos, Hosea, Habakkuk, especially Habakkuk. Those guys, yibo like mawufunda incwadi zabo, like you are going to come out there impressed. Ubona ukuthi these people like oppression babengahlali bayibhekelele kanje, yabo. Yeah, they will look at it and then ask uNkulunkulu imibuzo, and they will start speaking, going out speaking, and they will pay with their lives, you know, for wenza lonto babebulawa, just like abo Steve Biko, Osobukwe, o Martin Luther, abo Malcolm X babulawa. So it's the same thing, yabo, because the current system is phila kuyo le ekwe by ama Protestant. La South Africa largely ama Protestant. South Africa was largely colonized by ama Protestant churches. Baptist, Dutch Reform, Anglican, Methodist, those kind of churches. Yizo that largely colonize us. So, a system, that's why most of us, like South Africa, we are largely Protestant, because we're colonized largely by Protestant churches. So, yeah, so into like akumelanga sivumele ukuthi labantu laba bafake imithetho yabo, like even if like uyabona ukuthi okay hayi lento la ikho eBhayibhelini, if ayikho eBhayibhelini, like you don't have to obey. Like uyabona if into umuntu ukutshela into engekho eBhayibhelini ukutshela opinion yakhe, yabo, yeah, opinion, preference yakhe. So why kumele man laleli preference yakhe, like this and this press for like into yena ayipreferayo, uyayiprefera, that's fine, but akumelanga manje mina ndiyilalela into ekhona. So lastly like labantu mabeletha baletha ama preference wabo bafuna ukuzowanyanzela la kumele thina kumele siwalele size silwe singabantu abamnyama over like ama preference walabo bantu ngisho ndithi yabo
something and you see the way you interpret the Bible.
Yeah.
Because man siyabhekana what I can say as I'm listening to what I would like the one that very when you communicate so bafaka that mentality.
Yes.
And it's very dangerous.
Yes.
You can go to church, and as you go to church, you don't know how they interpret, but they interpret the Bible according to their motives. Perfect. Uyabona khona into eyikhulumile about unity. Uyabona khona mahleli la endlini mhlambe khona abazibiza ukuthi abesuthu, abazibiza ukuthi amaXhosa, amaZulu, into ezinjalo, yabo, like yonke lonto. Do you know ukuthi yonke lonto ya create yibo laba bantu, including our languages. Like yabona into ukuthi before kufika ama missionaries nabelungu yayingekho into ukuthi like uzozibiza ukuthi umZulu, isizwe kwakuthiwa like isizwe samaZulu, isizwe samaXhosa, isizwe yayingekho lonto. Like the current languages esinazo ama languages that came into being through ama missionaries standardizing certain languages bona ama dialects babewathanda, yabo. So if ufana nokuthi yabo lesizulu esikhulunywa kuthiwa idialect yesintunga ane, so makuyi dialect yesintunga because bafikelele lapha and then kukhulunywa this kind of a dialect bayithatha and then by standardize through the missionary schools, so banyanzela wonke omunye umuntu ukuthi akafunde le language, yabo. That's how they did it. So and then for ukuthi benzeni ba create separate people fana lento kuthiwa amaXhosa mawuthi like yabona igama lelithi umXhosa, it could be anyone. Igama lakhona doesn't say anything about your ethnicity or history or leli gama lelumXhosa just means someone of fierce, someone like othanda udlame, into ezinjalo. So kungaba noba ubani umuntu lakho ongabiza ukuthi umXhosa. Yeah, even leli gama lelumSuthu just means a black person. Mangake silisebenzise khona manje makuthiwa uSuthu just means a black person. Like leli gama lelo kuthiwa abatswana into ezinjalo, like iyahlekisa into yakhona. Like this is how in fact the whole reality lesinayo was created by these guys. The languages, our cultural identities, some of izinto esichoma ngazo, like kufana this concept yelobola isinto sethu lesi, yabo. Like the way senza ngakhona khona manje, that's not how it was done back then. Le form yelobola was introduced by a guy named Theophilus Shamtin, was also a Protestant. Yabo. So like kunalento okuthanda ukustandardize izinto, yabo. Like yeah. Okay. Kumele sibekele standard. Yeah. Wonke umuntu kumele enze so. And ekudala thina sasingenayo lonto, yabo. Okay, ilobola like dala, it was more, the concern was more of ukuthi kuhlanganiswa ama families. So awukwazi ukuthi ungalobola nga anything valuable emphakathini. You know, it was not only tied to inkomo nelentos, but ukuthi kudala ke wonke umuntu based on la system leyikhona, wonke umuntu wayenenkomo. Yabo, so wonke umuntu wayenembuzi, but zazingafani, abanye babekwazi ukulobola ngembuzi into ezinjalo, and then there were certain things as we agriculture uma farms into ezinjalo ongakwazi ukuthi ulobole ngakhona. Yeah, uyabo, like la valuable lathandwayo. The key uyabona into eyibalekile ukuthi kuhlanganiswa ama family more than ukuthi kufunwa indaba zemali nani. Into uyabona lonto le, in fact ukuthi kuhlanganiswa ama family, that came first, that was the priority before anything else. Yabo, so khona manje thina senza ipriority kube ukuthini, ukubhatala le inkomo nento ezinjalo, yabo. So yayi pragmatic into yakhona, kwangena standard ukuthi this is how you do it. Yayi pragmatic based on ama negotiations and now as a family. Yabo, so kwafika this Theophilus Shamtin, wabona ukuthi hey labantu laba because wayefuna ukuchaka inkomo, wahamba enabafazi aba85 abase KZN nenkomo ezingakanani, umlungu ke lo, yeah. So because wayefuna ukuchaka inkomo, efuna ukuchaka inkosi ucetshwayo inkomo, and then he introduced the standard ukuthi okay, intombazana esaseyintombi meli ilotshole so, banibani mela lotshole so, into ezinjalo. And then that's how inkomo beziza inkosini, and then that's how he managed to live with many cows ilento zene KZN. So and then get thina ke, and economically abantu abamnyama like we are at the bottom, but we still want to which senze lezi zinto lezi, yabo, we are caged, yabo. we are caged, including nalento le eyama tribes. Lento le yama tribes I think iyo like yabasebenzela kakhulu kahle, and it was created by ama missionaries. Lento le yama tribes ayingekho, ane. South Africa is made up of two groups of people, the Khwe people and Bo people. And Amambo are those people who came from Central Africa. They are a minority like South Africa. The Khwe people, majority of Tina, we sing Abakwe. And we come from Abakwe. There was a brother besom later konala, but because of imali into zinjalo CSA ngakwazi, who unpacks this whole history. He has traveled I think for 17 years around Southern Africa, researching yona le history le ethu. Wathola ukuthi we've been fed among all along, and the history corner to see the funny thing about it is being taught even nasesikolweni. Uyavumelana nami boy. It's being taught even nasesikolweni history corner. Ufana ukuthi like for example umSuthu umshweshwe, abantu bathi waye umSuthu. UmShweshwe was not even Suthu. Into like abantu abangayenza. He was not even Suthu umshweshwe, but he managed to be inkosi yabeSuthu. How is that possible? And he was not part of the Suthu royal line, abakwena, abafukeng, into ezinjalo. But yeah. Yes. Umshweshwe in some ways the British had an influence ukuthi ukhuphuka kanjani in power, but uthe mayifika lapho in power That was one of the, I can say, smart leaders work on. Because into engayifuni ukuthi abantu bakhe bafe. Yeah. 70% of iLesotho used to be under Free State, I mean, used to be under And because of certain deals wazenza, because he fought the Dutch, defeated them. Yeah. And then because wengafuni ukuthi abantu bakhe bafe, he agreed, okay, he's going to move to the modern day Lesotho, that mountainous region, because he didn't want his people to die. Those guys, babe powerful ganja, babe palm, and they could only fight. And I guess what? He was one of the friendliest guys when it comes to Ama missionaries. He opened Ama borders for them. He gave them land. Ama missionary stations, and they turned against him. And they turned against even his own people. So he learned, even I say, so he learned, and then they created these identities as Watanda and these languages. Like all these things were missionary creation. They were created by missionaries to in the 80s and in the 90s during Inkatha. What was happening there? Black people were killing each other because of what? They had used that issue of tribalism. And into engisabisa even namanje ukuthi abantu abamnyama we are so vulnerable. Yabona mangake sithi siyazama ukuthi sikhiphe le oppression le ephezulu. You'll see they will just use this issue of tribalism and will start murdering each other. So that's why like lento le ama tribes mele siswayeke. I mean, I don't even consider one of those guys who calls what and secular. I used to do lessons but on secular, because they were created by missionaries to do what. Imagine if ungalala namhlanje uvuke kusasa ukhohlwe yonke into ubuyazi in the past. What will happen ngempilo yakho? Yoshintsha. Yeah, yoshintsha. There's going to be a lot of confusion, and that's where abantu abamnyama are currently in terms of ungezwa nje ihistory lokukhulunywa abantu abamnyama bayikhulumayo ngabo yawo into ezinjalo ukuthi ubone ukuthi confusion nje yodwa and who created that confusion? White missionaries. Ama inferiority complexes la Steve Biko akhulume ngawo. Ngikhona abantu abamnyama abangwazi nokwabheka umlungu emahlweni. Yabo? Like once kwafika umlungu nje umuntu like hey uyatatazela igazi lakho ulizwe ngathi angazi litheni. That's a result of those inferiority complexes that were created by Ama missionaries. So Steve Biko uyayiveza lonto ukuthi we are aware ukuthi education yama missionaries yasebenza kanjani to create these inferiority complexes zabantu abamnyama, yabo. So you find lezo zinto ke ebantwini abamnyama ukuthi we have like we feel like there's something wrong ngathi singaphansi kwabanye abantu, and even the environment esiphila kuyo enforces that, yabo. Like bengenibona ukuthi abantu they are proud for ukuhlala la Soweto is not a good place to stay. Toxic le ndawo. It was created out of oppression, yabo. Abantu abamnyama bezama ukuthi bathole umhlaba abazohlala kuwo. Like imagine iCliptown, ubani kwayibona iCliptown? Do you see ukuthi la ndawo injani? Yeah.
Somewhere in your talk we must try and move out of these circles.
Yeah.
Like what are circles and not to move out? Which what are you saying? Are you saying sing aside you're a Christian?
No. Okay. So in the 1800s, two figures, Nehemiah Tile and no Mukuni, Tate Mukuni. Those guys, they were part of the Methodist Church. They left, started a movement ebizwa khona manje ukuthi African initiated churches. Amabandla lakaqalwa ama-Africa. So they left those churches because of zona lezinto engizibalisayo. So in the corner, but abanye they did not leave, even though philosophy yabo isafana nabo Mukuni. Instead, they fought inside to change this circle. Ukuthi yazi kwenzakalani within the Protestantism ne Roman Catholics. Kune structure sikhona ukuthi this is how we do things.
And this structure sakhona si deep, very very deep, yabo, because sinama roots, yabo, ajule kakhulu, yabo. And the structure sakhona, yabona, like for example, look at Catholic, for example, azange kube na Pope A1 umuntu omnyama. Roman Catholic, I think, say na close over 1,000 years ikhona akaze kwaba ne Pope yomuntu omnyama. And Europe phela incane, it's yabona mangabe uthi na Africa la, Europe is just this tiny piece. Wonke ama Pope, most of the Pope aqhamuke khona lapha in that tiny piece. So the continent le enabantu abangaka phela sinabantu abaningi thina. After Asia, it's us, like abantu abaningi. You have never had a Pope coming from khona lapha. You have never had a Pope coming from Asia, you see. So that means la position is reserved only for them. Yabo. So into khona ke is that abantu abamnyama in some of these circles into abayenzile ukuthi bangene bafike banyanzele ukuthi okay, stella like ukuthi kube ne bishop yomuntu omnyama, stella ukuthi kube no banibani umuntu omnyama, stella ukuthi kube no banibani umuntu omnyama, if andifuni siyahamba. So it's either you do that ukuthi okay manje go respect to certain convictions zenu, because singabantu abamnyama nathi we also have our own views of, even though kukhona lapho esihlukana khona, but as singabantu abamnyama khona lapho esihlangana khona ukuthi okay the way senza umculo ngakhona uyafana, yabo. Like ayekho umuntu omnyama uthanda ukuhlala phansi for lento zemangabe kucula, the way senza umculo wethu ngakhona, and we understand mangabe umculo wakho wenziwa umuntu omnyama, there are certain ways mangabe ukhuluma ukuthi okay uyabona ukuthi ukhuluma umuntu omnyama. So kunalonto, and representation khona lento ekhulunywa ngayo khona manje is very key. So if those guys abafuna ukuthi bayenze lonto, you can leave. If bayavuma ke, you can try to change those cycles ngalondlela. Yeah.
What I can say, here as we are here, they are all together.
Yeah.
And it's really well, it's family well. The problem is you need to understand what's all the way to surrender and all, because one thing okay, so so if as our like in churches, there's nothing wrong with churches, but we as our in churches, we need to understand it's not about power, it's not about a name, but it's all about power and cost. So if we can understand it's in order.
It's in order.
In the course of confused time, why not about this? I don't think that my capabilities will too.
That's what
we should understand. So that everything will be well.
Yes.
So we need to share roles so that there will be peace inside.
Very true. Yeah, so lonto le ibalulekile ukuthi even nathi siswaqala lamasonto there has to be order, yabo. Into khona is that, for example, khona le philosophy, it's a way of life, in fact, ubuntu. Yabona le khulunywa ngayo like kakhulu. Like okay, there was lo concept le ikhona ukuthi ndabe family, society, you think for omunye umuntu, and naye lo muntu lo he thinks for omunye umuntu, yabo. You are not selfish. So it's all ngisakhumula ngikhula le in emakhaya, uyazi kwakunalento lokuthi if mhlambe u6 o'clock kubona umuntu esingamazi uyacrossa la kwi village, sasithunya ukuthi umuntu akhona like masimlande siyombuza ukuthi ubani uya kuphi, akathanda ukuthi like athole indawo yokulala, like ayenziwe uma lo muntu lo akaziwe, but lonto leyo like iyenziwe. So like lonto le was a way in which our ancestors or mama no baba bethu bakudala they created a society ukuthi like at least kube nama boundaries, yabo, azo stop from ukuthi like be selfish, and then from lapho ke sigcine ke manje sesenzani sesibulalana, So that's why they came up with this concept. And along from a Bible, we are told unkulunkulu because we are created in His image. Even if like sigu deny, but there are certain things as was which is ezinhle, and if they are acceptable to Him because we are created in His image. So izinto ezinjalo kumele zithathwe zifakwe esontweni, but ke manje zenzweni zinikezwe iarticulation yeBhayibheli. Something leyo leke manje abangafuna ukuyenza laba. In their own culture, it's about survival. It's about survival. Who's at the top? Who's number one? Lo competition. And then from La Blondo, they create like a disorder. Any. Sis.
Like with all of this information about the history of Christianity, then you said at the beginning you are also Christian.
Yeah.
So for you, what made you Christian regardless of everything that you've heard about Christianity?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So ukuba kwam ukuthi ndiwele kwinkolo yobuKristu. Okay, bengayazi le information. Okokuqala but kwakusesikolweni. There was a brother of mine endandihamba naye. He got saved and before me. And then from that he came and preached to me, and then uNkulunkulu wanthinta kanjalo, and then I got saved ngaloo ndlela. So I think I became a Christian for close to maybe 4 years or so before Diaz, or 6 years before Diaz the information. The information the end I told her after I've become a Christian, and affect in some ways. Because and then even the question and I Christianity, but lonto bengakhulumi nami bekuba yimje kuphela ukuthi ndiyafuna ukuthi this guys benza into so, hayibo, this guys benza into so, benza into so, yabo. Ndikhumula I hearing about ama Puritans ukuthi izinto babezenza, and then I called my pastor, hey so I'm ndizwa ukuthi nokuthi about these Puritans. The guy did not, I didn't call him, ndamthumelela message ku WhatsApp zange ayiphendule. Message and then you find in other places abafuna ukuthi ukhulume ngayo into khona. Once you start talking about these things, bakutshela ukuthi you are letting it disunity esontweni into ezinjalo. If unity is going to be compromised, is going to be based on a compromise, therefore unity is fake and kumele la kuyibaleka indawo enjalo. Yeah, so fake. So it has to be based on ilendos. And what's in this you have to talk about the uncomfortable things. Because we have to talk about the uncomfortable things like ilendos. So even like the key, we have an intercon. The person who has to own umphefumulo wakho uNkulunkulu nje kuphela. Like akekho umuntu la khona right ukuthi own umphefumulo wakho, not the pastor, not the leader, not like umphefumulo wakho has to be your own soul. Mele like kube if like akusu uNkulunkulu akekho umuntu la kumele alentuze own umphefumulo wakho. Akekho umuntu omunye one right ukuthi own umphefumulo wakho. Like izinto you have to take them because okay uyavumelana nazo. Not because ufuna ukujabulisa lo muntu lo, uyabo. So mangabe into yakho uyayilalela and iyakuhlala, uyabona ukuthi okay this makes sense, and then you accept it, yabo ngaloo ndlela. Not because usaba umuntu la kophambili into ezinjalo. Umphefumulo wakho, your mind is your mind, your hands, your everything, yezakho zonke lezi zinto lezo. So you must not allow omunye umuntu intrude kula freedom uNkulunkulu akunikeza yona, because uNkulunkulu mengabe kulethe eduze kwakhe akazelanga ukuthi awenzela ukuthi ube enslaved. In fact, we find true freedom ngokuthi size kuye uNkulunkulu. So if uzithola ukuthi uza kuNkulunkulu but uthola you feeling like you are in bondage, something is wrong. And lonto le wrong is not on side kaNkulunkulu, is somewhere emntwini around lapho. But most of uNkulunkulu you have to be like free, ukhululeke.
Sometimes also like as black people not really see food.
Yeah.
You said food is very important.
Yeah.
Because if we don't know where our behaviors are coming from, then
yes.
we're trapped in those things.
Yeah.
Because one of the things right is I'm sure you know it's epigenetics. It's like a study that these people born at a so what they would do is they found that the people that were Holocaust survivors, because of the trauma that they went through, even 14 generations after,
yes,
trauma in the DNA of the kids that experienced. So mothers went apartheid, they knew that okay, we are creating a system that So if the young people are not reading, if the young people are not, I saw you yesterday giving out pamphlets, but they're seeing like, they are more interested in their quotes, they are more interested in social media, they're not interested in being informed. So of course if they're not informed, they're going to be in a system where So I think one of the things that to set people free is to also give them information so that they understand where these things come from. Because now I'm also Christian, but I can distinguish between something that I feel it's okay, this is not really coming from God, or this is somehow oppression. Or there are certain things even in the church that I come from that I don't agree with because I feel okay, this is a bit like it's like a slave thing. Trying to control you. So and all of those things, they don't just come from putting us, but it's just information to your phone and you get exposed to even coming here. Now I've learned something, but they can be in trouble because so they will find themselves definitely in situations where they are oppressed, because sometimes your oppression is not just at church, but you can be oppressed by your phone. You can be oppressed by social media. You can't think outside. You believe your standard of beauty is found on Instagram. You don't know beauty as a black woman now you are pretty without any other thing external. So if you're not researching and finding these things, then of course you're going to find yourself, or even to understand that, sometimes because of reading, you can find they come from an era where they were treated like that. But if as a young person again you are not reading, you are not like exposing yourself to different things, so I do think it's maybe a movement like this maybe it could be it is. Take it to schools for you to speak to them and try somehow to for them to, because more like it surprised me so much more the caliber of English they spoke, and these are people who were from the models. These were people that were educated. Abu Nelson Mandela was from they were coming from education. But how did they get quality? So like you can take your child and you say private school, but substance. Because they don't go out of their way with bathroom devices. So these are things that like if these children can understand, we are not, because even in the economy, we like about them but then they don't get jobs because we don't even own the industry where we can you are starting to actually be a slave. They take because the system it traps you from school, it traps you in university. After university you go work for a big corporate, you are still trapped. You can't even buy a house. You need to attend a report, you are in bondage. Is richer than you and driving a Benz because they're paying for the they don't see those things because they don't allow themselves to see in what because our phone so I think you can somehow maybe see
very true nihlala nature. Okay, perfect. So now into khona ukuthi especially the of the Jews izinto ezinjalo in post-traumatic slave disorder, into ezinjalo, yabo, like khona lento le khona like ukuthi abantu bacabanga ukuthi ungangena ku-oppression and then boom 1994 na isekhona kuthiwa free, and then yonke la nto leya that you've been fed for close to 300 years iphumile suddenly, yabo, like loo nto leya ayenzeki. It does not happen ngaloo ndlela. Yabona kwi-psychology I think khona i-study eseza no Sigmund Freud and akhona abayibiza ukuthi i-psychoanalysis. Kwenzakalani lapho ukuthi mangabe eza umuntu eza nama problems kumele like umbuze about i-history yakhe. You cannot heal umuntu ngaloo ndlela without knowing i-background yakhe ukuthi lo muntu lo number one like i-childhood yakhe benjani, abazali bakhe bebenjani, into ezinjani. But here's the problem about the psychology yabelungu, is that I take into consideration the fact that we went through slavery and colonialism as African people. And so that's why there's a rise of people, even though kuna social work into zinjalo, abantu abamnyama who are committing suicide, who are giving themselves over to drugs. When you open like those, yabona mangohlale na these guys ukhulume nabo, ucheke imbelini yabo yenhliziyo yabo ukuthi kwenzakalani inside, uzothola ezinye izinto ezimangazayo. So umuntu uzama ukuthi like okay abalekele ireality yabo based on zona lezi zinto ezenzakalayo outside of yena. So zonke lezo zinto lezo zinomthelela, zine history ekhona behind ukuthi why lo muntu lo eso yabo. And ke manje into khona for ukuthi ze uproot zikhitshwe, people have to be informed about the history ukuthi sisuka kuphi. Ama Jews even today, those guys, they are still trying to change that. That's why be careful in terms of once wabonisa a Nazi symbol or something, they are going to deal with you. They don't play ngaloo ndlela. Ulinga nje le ama-Nazi, Hitler was the one who killed the Jews, so they had a swastika, a symbol yakhona, like ngeke ufike uyilentuze lanto le elentuzeni eIsrael or around apha khona ama-Jews, they are going to punish you severely, chief. Or ulinga nje uthi uzama ukwenza anything that is going to praise Hitler or ubanibani. Recently Kanye West said something about ama-Jews. They are going to deal with that guy. They are going to deal with that guy. Ama-Jews, they don't play ngaloo ndlela because they know the suffering le abadlule kuyo. Thina singabantu abamnyama, we just accept, yabo. Like I don't know why we do it, but yabo, so that's why we need to read into zinjalo and then try to awaken ourselves the information. Yes, sisters.
Now, I also wanted to ask what are you saying about, like, how would you answer Christians who are saying, well, now they are proudly Protestant or proudly Catholic and they want to celebrate the Reformation in 2 days' time.
Yeah.
And they want to, like, don't, okay, all those bad things they did, but still, like, they don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, just those things of it, you know what, let's just sort of praise the Lord, it's about the gospel.
Yeah. So okay, number one, first of all, if umuntu ufuna ukuyicelebrate i-Reformation into ezinjalo, therefore ayasizimpose ukuthi hey ungayicelebrate ungayithini, yabo, like i-choice yakhe, yabo. But into soyenza ukuthi kumele simi-informa ukuthi number one lento ayicelebrate ayiqhamuka kuphi, so that abanye mabethi abayingeni into akhona angaloke na ebakhomba like ngemini, yabo. It's about yona into akhona because abanye like ngeke usize wonke umuntu, yabo. Khona laba abazafuna ukusizwa, khona laba abangazofuna ukusizwa. But here's the thing ukuthi abantu like in those circles, they continuously have to fight the struggle, so ukuthi okay, we have to be respected, our songs have to be sang, we have to have our leaders respected, we still have to have the first black what like esontweni, yabo, into ezinjalo. So if umuntu that's what he wants to go through, loma struggles into ezinjalo, that's fine. But thina masimtshela ukuthi this is how things are, it was going to be better if wenza izinto ngale ndlela, and then athi no yena akayifuni ufuna ukuqhubeka ngale ndlela, that's fine, yabo. So asizumthuka asizumenzani, because we also do not want to impose ourselves like kwabanye abantu, because I'm for ukuthi like abantu babe free, umuntu like enze into like ayithandayo, into engayifunile ukuthi this impose emntwini, and then ufuna ukupusha like ama convictions wakho. So if umuntu ukhuluma naye, we am convinced about certain things and then he accept it, that's fine. But if akayifuni, stop imposing yourself like emntwini. Myeke umuntu like mhlambe makusekuhamba isikhathi naye uzofunda in some ways, yabo. So there have been other Africans, I think, in those circles who did see that. Fana se eRoma ndazi umama mhlambe angafakaza kunama certain sects ngathini groups, you know, outside aba dedicated vele ukuthi like kube na issues ze equality inside the church, ukuthi like kube nabefundisi abamnyama like bahlonitshwe babhatalwe ngcono, because previously babengabhatalwa ngokulingana. You know, you will find that the pastors are doing the same job, or the black person is even doing more
but it's getting paid 7 times less than the guy ongenze okuningi. So there were people within those movements abaye bazilwela lezo zinto, also like a Methodist manlenduza khona ama Methodist amaningi khona manje, they are run by black guys. Those guys in fact fought, for which babe na ma lenduza wabo, different churches where they are going to be themselves running those churches. A Baptist, where I'm from, there's a Baptist Union, there's a Baptist Convention. A Baptist Union is sort of like the motherboard of the whole Baptist. They supported the apartheid in Dakon and they refused to repent. So because of Yonalonto, the guys, the black guys, blacks and colored guys, I think in the 80s or so, they formed the Baptist Convention. They separated from LAP. And then because they were so angry, but in these circles, only for blacks and coloreds, and that's all. And the Baptist Convention currently is being run by Abantu Abamnyama. It is funded by African Americans, by a United States. And then there's the Baptist Union, like a so people have been fighting along there. But manje, any into like Sister Iowa Ikoloma is the issue ye man. It's the issue man. Like khona lento le besiyifunda noPhutshaba ekhuluma like ngokuthi abelungu they will always tell our parents like, hey, don't concern yourself ngezinto ezala emhlabeni, ilentuza yakho ikwela yabo ngale kwethuna, but abantu baphila kuphi bakhe like ama paradise wabo like la elentuzeni emhlabeni yabo. So lonto le problem and engafundiswa iBhayibheli iBhayibheli alifundisi lo. So izinto abantu abamnyama kumele sizenzile yilento leze education. And then like abantu, they only become powerful by producing, not consuming. Tina, like we have this mind, your consumption. And there isn't this is like okay, I spend the money like indlu like it's a solid thing, because if like we are humble, you are going to at least leave abantwana bakho with something. At least bazo sebenza based on something, and the value yakhona iya appreciate into zinjalo. Ama businesses izinto zinjalo, many things, ama skills, like izinto lezi zifunekayo lezi ebantwini abamnyama. Otherwise if asizenze lezo zinto, let us just forget. We have to get ourselves involved with industry, like sis produce. Maybe London might not happen in our lifetime, but at least as long as we a foundation where the children or each generation is going to work on. That's why I call a Skalele organization, because we are hoping like see kulise. Because here's another thing, like Abu Baba who came before Tina. Like they didn't come up with stuff like zonales, because abantwana mabekhula, if like they don't have ama organization as well where they can exercise ama skills with leadership, mhlambe like music or someone like khona into akwazi ukuyiproduce or something. If izinto ezinjalo azikho, yena zoyenza okay mhlambe ibhola, and then mostly nathi sikhule sidlala ibhola, but from ibhola ugwayi, insango, utshwala, and then gone. So by failing at least to create a structure as so, because abelungu they have these structures. In fact abelungu they even have secret societies, like where abantwana like by initiator khona bafake khona, where they are trained for leadership. For example, iPuda Potisasa khona even namanje. It's an Afrikaner secret society which yenza where it trains abantwana in terms of into the leadership, certain skills like zokubuilda izinto. So that's why abelungu bezenzela lezinto, yabo. But abantu zange baze la benjalo. Like they didn't know how to farm, mabefika khona la. They were taught by our fathers, but khona manje the skill of farming asena certain. Sasi clearly on the other side, like to build, you had people like babekwazi ukwakha like izindlu into ezinjalo. Lezo zonke lezo skill lezo sizilahlile into zakhona. So but I think in ilento zami, that's why I think abantu abamnyama they have to leave those circles, because there's the issue ukuthi like uba restrained. You are not fully free to express yourself. and like mina indawo enjalo ndithondi yabona mangabe ndikhuluma ngendaba nje toxic indawo enjalo yabona where you are not free ukuthi like uze express as umuntu ukuthi okay hayi le andivumelani nayo le ndiyavumelana nayo hayi le andiyithathi hayi le ngisazocabanga ngayo into ezinjalo where kumele like uhambe the way izinto zenziwa ngakhona therefore indawo enjalo like indawo like a bondage probably understandeke emsebenzini because you have to earn imali and ayikho into ozoyenza yabo kumele uthole imali so that uzokwazi ukuzifida nokuthi ufide leyo mhlawumbe ungayinyamezela for a certain time but not inside the church yabo where uthola ukuthi like you are being oppressed inside the church. Khona enye incwadi bengiyifunda about this lady because theology ayifundiswa esontweni kwakuyile eveza indaba yesono yabo ukuthi ube too conscious of like son. So uthi this lady when he went into a confession one time he came out of a confession efila engathi uyazini useduze nesihoko and engathi kunamademoni amlumayo yabo and yinlonto le it was just nje phela theology yakhona affected ingqondo yakhe yabo so it's very important ukuthi okay izinto ezinjalo and like now from my experience we are sisters like I find people like abaku not all Protestant especially lapho where dominance yabelungu yabonakala ngakhona like I find black people not being free ukuthi baze express most of the time. Like it's difficult to express yourself khona lapho yebo like mangabe let's say cultural day or certain thing mawugqoke ngalendlela like isn't this unchristian brother yabo into ezinjalo like abanye mabegide esontweni kokuthiwa babegide esontweni abantu bafila engathi hey bafuna ukubashaya or something so ama cultures ahlala eclash and if ama cultures ayaclasha kanjalo abantu abakwazi ukuhlala phansi ukuthi okay uzama ukuthi unyamezele abanye abantu you only want ukuthi culture yakho kube yiphakeme therefore that's a problem you are going to cause ama conflicts so umuntu nomuntu like kumele afunde ucompromise for like okay you can compromise 50% nalabo compromise 50% and then we can meet halfway siqhubeke sonke phambili so if ufuna ukuyenza lonto I will just leave those circles simple as that simple as that because we also cause it disorder ufuna ukuthi kuhlale izinto zenziwa ngendlela yakho therefore we cause it disorder ngalondlela so this is what the Protestant and the Catholics at the first did because baye ba demonize all African culture because they had values that they wanted to impose. You see, so if ama values wakhona they're going to go in line with their own capitalistic system. Like number one, it taste khona into yazi endaweni mamela like I didn't know ukuthi into khona it matters so much. It taste leli is so important because based on it taste ane lezi zinto lezo zithenga khona lapha shop into ezinjalo you spend money is based on what? Taste. So if someone else introduces a certain taste emlomeni wakho yabo ngendlela thize he's going to benefit economically from lonto le yakho le yabo so into khona ukuthi thina before the Europeans we had certain taste for ezinye izinto and those things were what beneficiary for economy lesasinayo when they came they introduced certain taste of izinto so and then because of your taste that's where we spend what our money ngacabanga ukuthi like it's that much of a problem after ndicabanga ukubona ama taste enye into taste so just khona this guy owaqala an organization in America kuthiwa wathi like what is going to do it's a powerful organization sasekhona yabantu abamnyama eAmerica solid and yayenza izinto Malcolm X was from that organization kuthiwa that guy worked ukuthi we have to change the taste yabantu abamnyama so they suggested a certain diet yabo ekwakumele like idliwe abantu abamnyama and then since they suggested that diet so not only black businesses were going to benefit from that but abantu abamnyama themselves were going to be healthy because of eating that certain kind of a diet, and the oppressive system lose revenue in some ways just because of your taste. Like mangabe like inenza song unesonto kunesonto elakho ligqoka blue elami ligqoka green, yabo, and vele thini manishumayela lapho ukuthi hey mawugqoka impahla ezi blue uyakwa Sathane esihogweni. So ubani oluzayo lapho angithi, but since mina ngifuna lezi zami mhlambe ezi green zithengwe ndizozipainta in ngendlela enhle ukuthi uNkulunkulu ufuna lezi, yabo, into ezinjalo. So that's what some of the missionaries did to introduce certain, yabo, taste. That's why they had to demonize ama practices wala elentuzeni Africa, because they were against their values that they wanted to introduce. So lezi zinto lezi zibhaliwe, like it's well written literature, like a corner. It's not like mhlambe izinto esizithatha from elentuzeni ekhanda. There's a book engathanda ukuthi mhlambe I think there's also a PDF yakhona by Chancellor William, The Destruction of Black Civilization. It's a brilliant book. Brilliant, yeah, it's a brilliant book, and the guy is himself a Christian, he's also a historian, so he's Christian. So he wrote that book, and from that book we understand, oh, listen to this suge le endaweni so, yabo, suge le endaweni so. And there's another one incwadi bendifunda just recently, End of Racism. Le ncwadi le ivezela ama attitudes, a leader to racism yama Europeans, and why futhi bayifaka from to elentuzeni even na Christianity. So yabona almost the Anglicans, the Methodists, the Catholics, the Lutherans and what ama headquarters wow, even if like bangabana abantu abaningi la Africa, but ama headquarters ase Europe. Ama headquarters, this is where like ama commands come ngakhona. So if nizothi nina the largest membership Africa, but ama headquarters le Europe, why ningenza ama headquarters la Africa? It's the very same thing mawuyibheka ku politics that African countries are fighting for. Lento le try in United States state security. There are only six countries ezilapho: Russia, China, Britain, France, Germany, and in that Security Council kulapho ama decisions amakhulu enziwa khona. But there's not even one African country ekhona khona lapho. Currently into elwelwa ama African countries ukuthi why thina ningafuna ukusifaka in this state security thing. Was le organization that part yenza ama decisions abalulekile about our own lives, but nina nifuna ukusifaka khona lapha elentuzeni. Cha phela Africa is over 1 billion. See, just landela like ilentuza Asia, we have like 54 countries, but there's not even one country elapha, yabo. So even with Christianity kwesinye isikhathi it's the same thing, yabo. At the pinnacle of leadership, uthola like there's a different skin color khona lapha, and that has been consistent for isikhathi eside. So we have to be fighting. Ake nisizwele nathi nisifakeni like elentuzeni. So umsebenzi lo, so the best way ukuthi ngcono vele usukuphuma esayidini uqala into yakho entsha and then niqhubeke, just like the African initiated churches. Those guys did an excellent job. Ukuthi I think thina silandele after bona, we didn't pick up from yona lonto, we just left izinto the way zingakhona. They established structures. They were funding some of our activities with ANC and PAC. PAC, as you know, it is yaqalwa abefundisi. Yabo also bukwe kwakwa abefundisi. And those guys were supporting imisebenzi, starting businesses, benzani, like ama tuck shop la esinawo la election before abulawa khona manje, started by some of those guys. Yabo. So they were very smart in terms of how izinto bezenza ngakhona. They were self-supporting instead of going to those guys begging. Ake nisizweleni, ake nisinikezeni imali, ake nenze yabo into ezinjalo. So it's a problem. Kwesinye isikhathi even imisebenzi khona manje masicabanga ngemisebenzi we are like, oh okay, mangiqeda matric, di-university, and then yeah, ngizothola umsebenzi. And mawuthi uzothola umsebenzi, you are thinking of a white person ozokuqasha. Uyabo?
Like this is how our minds khona omnye oyebuza ukuthi like yini into esenza ukuthi sicabanga ukuthi they have the job for us in the first place, because into khona uNkulunkulu like usinikeze ingqondo, usinikeze izandla, usinikeze like yonke lento le, so izinto kumele sisebenzise, and into khona le ukuthi we are not inferior people, yabo. We are just people, yabo. We are not inferior people. Into kumele siyazi like ukuthi thina ingqondo zethu we have not stretched them. Yabona ama-Europeans because environment yabo yayinzima, it's a very difficult environment, kuyabanda lapha, izinto azikhuli kahle, yabo, into ezinjalo, so they had to stretch their minds, yabo, so that ukuthi bakwazi ukuthi bathole lezi zinto babeza, because mabephuma from lapha ePortugal nase-Spain they were very poor, very poor, yabo. So bheka manje ukuthi bakuphi, because they had to stretch their minds. Thina I think enye into la uNkulunkulu like usinikeze like icontinent emnandi, yabo, we have the sun, sinemvula, umhlaba ufertile, mhlawumbe yiyo lento lesigcina yabona on the other side bona baba beach mabefika la babona hey these people are blessed, thina si relaxing, yabo, because siyatshala izinto ziyakhula, yabo, siyadla, yabo, sisebenza ngama season, yabo, ukuthi hayi ngesizini eso kuzakhula into eso, like asinankingi, yabo, thina we just lay back and try enye into. That's why like mawufika la ama Africans they were taken advantage of because sasi xenophilia, yabo, love for the stranger, yabo, makufika la umuntu ongamazi, hey kunjani, hiza kunento so, yabo, so wethelela umuntu amaheyo into ezinjalo, yampha into ezinjalo, because the environment was providing, so bathe mabefika ke labantu they took over that environment, so izinto yeah, it's providing chief, yabo, chance nje wena usebenza kayi-1 or mhlambe leyo veki leyo ukuthi uyahlakula wenzani uyatshala, but after lapho uyahlala ulinda imvula. eEurope abanalo nto, yabo, so i-environment yalapha inzima, mhlambe khona manje sekungcono, bekubanda lapho abantu bakhona bebehlupheka, behlupheka ngenye indlela, and they were enslaving themselves. Kwakhona ya during mangakufunde in that 1000 years when the church was the only powerful institution with society, kwakhona i-system babeyibiza ukuthi i-feudalism, and i-system yakhona in fact yonke into yakho like ibi owner ama aristocracy, the upper class of the society, umzimba wakho, ifamily yakho, like it was as if like you had no freedom, like uyafika umuntu wakhona unihlalisa elentuzeni kwi-farm yakhe, you work for him, yabo, kulo family yakhona, asithi wena kwenzeka ukuthi like ingane yakho eyomfana iyashada, mase ishada kanjalo the first person ukuthi alale nengane inkosikazi yakho was the guy or owner of farm. They were subjected to lezo zinto like for iminyaka, you know, being in poverty into ezinjalo. That's why like ama-Europeans they don't want to go back to into in Europe, they'll rather fight here bahlale khona la, because if they can go back there kuzophinde qale loma wars. Europe like yalwa, you know, like even the major wars like ezabulala abantu abaningi emhlabeni started by Europeans, so they have learned to fight those people, because like Europe, come on, like izinto zinzima lapha, it's not ukuthi wonke umhlaba lapha ubless. You can go back to our Romans who also went around conquering people because they had to stretch their minds based on what umhlaba babehlala kuwo. So mhlambe nathi like we have to start doing lezo zinto, which is not to just conquer abantu but just to stretch our minds, which at least like, because it is also like people toxic le ndawo noba singazama ukuthi like si abantu abamnyama bayathanda ukuthi benze into enhle, into enembi, you know, nokubona nje i-rose ekhula like kwi-concrete, yeah, sithanda ukwenza lonto ukuthi senze ubuhle into like inzima instead of ukuthi vese ishiye nje kanjalo. So it's toxic, but siyazama ukuthi siclean, sithenge izindlu, yabo, sizenze zibe zinhle nezindlu zakhona, sizama ukuthi senze ubuhle khona la, but le ndawo le iyazisho nje shema ukuthi hayi i-toxic, kuze bangcono mhlambe even nale elentuzeni emaplazini, because from lapho yayenziwe ngakhona mangake nakhona ulande i-history yakhona yala iSoweto uzoyibona ukuthi like izikhiphani ngale ndawo, yabo. Yeah, so because yayidalule loo nto ukuthi provide like abantu abazohamba bayosebenza and yabo, that's all. Bamba osebenza like for the white companies come back like babe kude nje nabelungu yabo through the Group Areas Act. Kwakunaloo nto ukuthi obvious mele babe nendawo yabo but bangasiphazamisi. That's why even today when uya kuma suburbs abantu abamnyama once they start going to those houses into ezinjalo abelungu they leave. Yabo abafuna ukuhlala nathi kusasenjalo into akhona. For the most part that's what happens. Bakhona obvious abelungu aba right, you know, who aba understand ukuthi okay like uphila nabantu yabo, so they have to stop with the arrogance. There are white people who are like that ukuthi like abelungu ngeke ubafake in just that one cage bonke. But the dominant attitudes yiloo nto ukuthi once bafika abantu abamnyama bahamba bamuvela to elinye ilento suburb, and that is still happening today because there are those views ukuthi singcolile and we are criminal. So and that's ukuthi kusasekhona amanye questions.